My relatives shamed me for choosing a humble worker as my husband. My mother scoffed. "Is that the best you could do?" My father bellowed. "You've brought shame on our name." I held my tongue until he entered the room. Every voice fell quiet. I'm Sarah, and for the first 23 years of my life, I was the dutiful daughter of a family fixated on prestige. I grew up in a household where appearances trumped affection, where approval was granted only for flawlessness, and where my parents judged worth by wealth and surnames. We resided in an immaculate suburban enclave, with perfectly trimmed hedges, monthly community meetings, and neighbors who tallied points based on who owned the newest BMW or held the most elite golf club membership. My mother, Alina, commanded every space she entered like a monarch of social standing. My father, Henry, a corporate attorney, communicated more through stern looks than words, and when he spoke, his remarks carried a heavy dose of judgment. As the eldest, I was the designated heir to their legacy. I was expected to elevate our family's reputation. Perfect grades weren't celebrated, they were the baseline. My friendships were scrutinized like a corporate merger. I couldn't associate with anyone my parents considered inferior, which meant anyone without wealth. My brother, James, was the favored son, excelling because he adhered to their script even more closely than I did. Top university, finance career, married a family acquaintance's daughter, posed for stiff holiday photos with fake smiles. My sister, Abigail, defiant and thus banished from family gatherings years ago, I played along. I attended an Ivy League school, landed a lucrative job in business consulting, dated men my mother gushed over at lunch, but it left me empty. I smiled at galas, wore the right clothes, said the right lines. Yet deep down, I felt like I was erasing my true self to fit their idea of value. Then I met Daniel. It wasn't a fairy tale moment. It wasn't polished. It happened during a community restoration project after a tornado tore through a nearby town. My firm sent volunteers for publicity, and I joined, craving a break from the corporate grind. I was weary of conference rooms and shallow chatter. I wanted something authentic. Daniel was part of the local team. Tall, wiry, sun-kissed, with a raw charisma that didn't stem from designer labels or curated social media. He wore faded jeans, had rough hands, and laughed with unguarded warmth. I watched him repair a crumbled wall with steady precision, guiding others with calm expertise, as if it were second nature. When I tripped and landed clumsily in the dirt, my colleagues snickered. Daniel extended his hand. That moment shifted everything. He wasn't swayed by my credentials. He didn't care about my designer purse or my father's status. He saw me, the real me, buried since my teenage years. We stayed in contact after that weekend. One coffee led to dinners. Dinners became long strolls under city lights, candid talks, fingers brushing tentatively. He made me feel secure, rooted, alive. With him, I didn't need to perform. Bringing him to meet my family, though, was a disaster I foresaw. I postponed it for months, making excuses, but Daniel was patient. He understood the world I came from and never pushed. He'd say, "I'm not here to win anyone over, Sarah. I just want to be someone you respect." And I did, every day. Eventually, I gave in to the pressure. My mother kept probing about my secretive boyfriend. So I planned a low-key dinner just to introduce them. The second Daniel stepped into our home, I regretted it. My mother sized him up like a clerk inspecting flawed merchandise. Her smile was forced, her tone overly polite. She eyed his work boots like they carried a stench. My father, he didn't rise to greet him. James sipped his whiskey, smirking throughout. Daniel made an effort, he really did. He asked questions, praised the food, spoke courteously. But my father's voice sliced through the table like a blade. "So you construct homes? My company just acquired a building firm. Hope you're not one of those cutting corners." Daniel smiled calmly. "I believe in doing things properly, sir." My father raised a skeptical brow. My mother leaned in, her tone syrupy. "And where did you study?" Daniel replied. "I didn't. Started working after high school to support my mom. Been building since." She sipped her wine, her disdain barely concealed. "How admirable." The evening dissolved into a haze of icy remarks, strained chuckles, and veiled barbs. In the car afterward, I sobbed. Daniel stayed quiet, just holding my hand the whole drive. After that, I stopped trying. I didn't bring him back. We wed quietly by a river with only a few people who truly cared about us. Not one family member attended. My mother sent back the invitation with a note. "This is a mistake." Yet we flourished. Daniel launched his own eco-conscious building company. I quit my corporate job to start my passion project, a sustainable interior design firm. We restored homes together, crafted beauty together, and propped each other up through late nights and tender moments. I never doubted my decision. Years went by. I rarely heard from my parents, just curt holiday emails or snide comments passed through James. Then my grandmother passed away. She was the one warm light in our cold family. She'd slip me treats when my mother banned sweets, let me hide in her attic during teenage arguments, and adored Daniel, though she only met him once at a market. "He's got honest eyes," she said. "Keep him close." Her funeral was the first time I faced my family again. After the service, my father approached and said, "We're hosting a gathering at the house, family only." I should have declined. But a wounded part of me, still craving a shred of approval, agreed. Daniel offered to join. I told him to stay back. I didn't want them to spoil another night for him. I was wrong. Stepping into that room, I sensed a trap. They weren't seeking peace. They wanted to remind me I'd failed them. Dinner began politely but turned venomous fast. My mother asked, "Still with that contractor?" My father snorted. "Still pounding nails for a paycheck, I bet." I stayed silent. My mother leaned in, lips tight. "Is that all you could find?" Then my father roared, "You're a stain on this family." I sat, stunned, humiliated, furious but mute. Then the door creaked. Daniel walked in, not in work clothes, but a sharp blazer and trousers. Calm, confident, in his hand a copy of Modern Builder magazine. He stood in the doorway like he owned the space. My family went silent, the air practically vanishing from the room. My mother's face twitched. My father blinked once. James's smirk vanished comically fast. Daniel didn't waver. He didn't acknowledge anyone. He just stepped forward and set the magazine on the table right before my father. It was the latest issue of Modern Builder, and there he was on the cover. Daniel Carter, the innovative builder revolutionizing eco-friendly homes. He looked at my father and said, "Thought you might find this worth a read." No one spoke. My father's eyes skimmed the headline, the byline, the subtext. "From worker to pioneer, how Daniel Carter's sustainable empire is reshaping American homes." My mother looked like she'd choked on her necklace. James leaned in to read, then recoiled like he'd been struck. Daniel turned to me. "Hey, Sarah, thought you might want to lift home." I stood, hands shaking, not from fear anymore, but from relief. Then it all poured out. I faced my parents, no longer cowering like a scolded child. "You shamed me for loving someone genuine, someone decent. You ridiculed his job, his roots, his clothes, because he didn't fit your elitist mold. While you were throwing fancy dinners and chasing clout, Daniel built a business from nothing. With his hands, with determination, with integrity. He didn't need your validation, and neither do I." My father's face turned crimson. "So what? You married wealth after all." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You think this is about money? Daniel was a good man when he had nothing. You never bothered to notice, and he still doesn't care about your world. He came to get me, not to win you over." My mother finally spoke, her voice cutting. "You're overreacting. It was just dinner. No one meant harm." "You called me a failure, Mom. You said I threw my life away. You treated my husband like dirt under your heel. Don't pretend this was anything but deliberate malice." James scoffed, trying to regain control. "So he got a magazine cover. Big deal. You still turned your back on family." Daniel stepped in. "Actually, James, that's what you did. From what I've heard, you haven't contacted your sister in years unless you needed a favor. And I'm guessing this gathering is about Grandma's estate and you're all fighting over the scraps." James's face contorted, but he didn't refute it. My father stood. "You have no place here." "No, you don't," I shot back. "You discarded your daughter the moment she chose love over your legacy. And now you dare call me a disgrace?" Daniel placed a gentle hand on my back. We turned and left. No one followed. Outside, the chilly night air hit me, but I felt warmer, stronger, freer. Daniel opened the car door and asked, "You okay?" I nodded. "I think I'm more than okay." He smiled, kissed my forehead, and we drove away. The next few days were calm until my phone rang. My father, I let it go to voicemail. Then my mother called, ignored. A day later, a text from James, "Can we talk?" I deleted it without reading more. Word of Daniel's success had spread through their social circle. The ecotech innovator who just signed a multi-million-dollar deal with a major firm was my husband. Suddenly, people were curious about the couple in the spotlight. Their attitudes shifted fast. But I was done a week later. My mother sent a formal invitation to a fundraising gala, written in elegant script. Family table, black tie. I returned it with a note. "We're busy rebuilding homes that mean more than facades." Daniel and I kept moving forward. We traveled, built a coastal retreat. I grew my design studio. Daniel spoke at industry summits. I watched him become the man he always was, respected, admired, quietly powerful. And me? I learned silence isn't always fragility. Sometimes it's strength biding its time, and when it speaks, it echoes.